guys, it is the morning after Arsenal have impressively beaten Brighton by 4 goals to 2 away from home, and I thought this was going to be a game where Arsenal could potentially struggle, just because Brighton are a team that play good football. Having said that, Brighton were at a disadvantage themselves, missing a few key players, like most importantly probably Moises Caicedo and Alexis McAllister in midfield, who definitely big misses for them. But Arsenal, it was a brilliant start to the game. Goal after about 65 seconds, Bukayo Saka. It was a really composed finish. It came at him quite quick with a deflection off a Brighton player, and just controlled it and placed it past Robert Sanchez in the Brighton goal. Arsenal also doubled their lead before half-time. Martin Odegaard had a slightly, I'm not going to say fortunate, but on another day that definitely doesn't go in, that shot. So, he got maybe slightly fortunate with it, but it's still good strike nonetheless. And Odegaard was absolutely superb. In fact, two best players in this game for me for Arsenal were Thomas Partey and Martin Odegaard. Thomas Partey was just absolutely everywhere, and the difference he makes for Arsenal when he's in the team, it is unreal, really. I think if you look at like Arsenal's win percentage with him in the team and without him, it is like an incredible difference. I think last season it was something like, when he's in the team they win about 65%, and when he's not in the team 45%. That's like, that doesn't sound like much, but a 20% difference is absolutely huge when it's just one player making that difference. And for me, I thought Arsenal had the best side out yesterday. The only change I would make if everyone's fit is, you could maybe say Gabriel Jesus from Nketiah, but the way Nketiah is playing at the moment, I'm not so sure, because straight after half-time he picks up on, I think a Robert Sanchez error is fair enough to say. He perhaps should have done a little bit better in terms of holding on to the shot, but he managed to scavenge himself a goal in Nketiah, and that's his second goal in 2 games. I think that's maybe what you get with Nketiah that you don't with Gabriel Jesus. Jesus isn't a prolific goal scorer, but you can also argue that Jesus does more for the team, whereas Nketiah is just a natural goal scorer. We saw it with his goal against West Ham the other night. He scored 2 types of goals that you associate with natural goal scorers in the past. The one against West Ham, where it's brilliant movements to, I can't remember which defender it was, he turned inside out for West Ham. It may have been Craig Dawson, it might not have been. He just shapes his body one way as if he's going to turn that way when he gets the ball, then turns the other, and then goes back to the way he originally meant to go, and scores. So that was one sign of a brilliant goal scorer. And the second one is always follow up rebounds, which he did brilliantly last night against Brighton, and made it 3-0. Basically, at the time, made it game done and dusted. Brighton did pull one back through Kaoru Mitoma. It was a decent goal, to be fair to him. I think you can maybe question the defending a little bit on that one. I think Arsenal had made a couple of substitutes by that point in defensive areas as well, bringing on Tomiyasu and Kieran Tierney for Ben White and Zinchenko, who for me are the 2 stronger players in Arsenal's team over Tomiyasu and Tierney. All good players though. That's the thing that Arsenal have, which they didn't have last season, was slightly more depth with the signings of players like Zinchenko, Jesus, Vieira, all in the summer transfer window. So that's definitely helped them this season. And they're now 7 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Martinelli got the 4th. Brilliant pass from Odegaard. One of the passes of the season so far, I think, because he had to get the weight on that right, he had to get the curl on it to bend it right into Martinelli's path, and he did everything. It was just spot on. And Martinelli, it was just one of them where you just hit in hope, really. He just sort of poked his toe at it, and he managed to get it past Sanchez, fortunately for him. Brighton still made a game of it towards the end of the game. They got another goal through the substitute Evan Ferguson. I think that's his first ever Premier League goal, and yeah, that made it interesting, especially as Matoma had another goal ruled out with just minutes to go. So it could have been a lot more, panicky or stressful for Arsenal fans in the end, but it wasn't to be for Brighton. And yeah, Arsenal managed to hold on to their win. And yeah, as I said, massive victory for Arsenal. I think these are games where some teams drop points. Like if we look at yesterday, I didn't watch the game, but Man City dropping points at home to Everton is a massive result for Arsenal as well, because Everton are a team who have been in poor form recently. So yeah, set 7 points clear at the top of the table New Year's Day. I think every Arsenal fan would have bitten your hand off for that at the start of the season, or even a few months ago. That's just an incredible achievement this far in the season. So if they can keep it up, they'll win the league this season. I'm sure of that. And yeah, they just do have a strong team. There's no weaknesses in the team anymore. You look at their team last season, and you still thought, without William Saliba in defence, and with Alex Lacazette being preferred over Nketiah, as good as Lacazette was at times last season, he wasn't scoring consistently enough for Arsenal, really. And the thing for Arsenal is, at the moment, they've got a couple of injured players, or they have had it anyway. They've still got Emile Smith-Rowe to come back into the fold, for example. And so you'd think before the end of the season, he could probably contribute at some point with a few goals, considering he did hit double figures, I think, in goals in the Premier League alone last season. So yeah, you'd think at some point this season he will have some sort of part to play, whether it's in Premier League or even the Europa League, because Arsenal are still doing fairly decent in that, and I'm sure they'll want to try and get as far in that as possible. It might not be the greatest thing ever for their Premier League hopes, but it still wouldn't be bad, and it is a way to keep the entire squad happy, giving them game time. So that's something for Mikel Arteta to think about, obviously. And for Brighton, that they were 7th before the return of the Premier League, I think, in the league 7th, I think. So that is a European spot, so they're definitely going to want to try and get that Europa Conference League spot. That's probably the most likely. I think Europa League might just be out of their reach, but I think a Conference League spot is perfectly attainable. It will be tough for them to get. I think outside of I think the top 6 is probably now becoming a top 7 with Newcastle playing the way they are. So yeah, it's going to be tough. They're going to have to finish above one of the top 7, if you like. So that'll be a big challenge for them. I think they could do with a couple of new players in January. Possibly a striker. I know Trossard's been in really good form this season, but I just don't think he is. I don't think he's enough of a presence to lead the line all by himself. I think when you have him and Mitoma behind the forward, then it's quite good. Obviously, Danny Welbeck, when he plays, he definitely plays really well for Brighton, but you just can't really rely on him to play every game throughout a season. So you do need, I think they do need someone else in a forward area. And yeah, other than that, there's not too many weak spots in that team, so it'll be interesting to see how they do between now and the end of the season. But for Arsenal, they just keep on winning.